Yes, I know that this is late. I know. But between trying to get all the other reviews done, I had to sacrifice somewhere, and it ended up being the Harry Potter reviews. And I'm sorry about that, but I promise you I'm going to make up for it because you're getting not one, not two, but three today. You're getting this one, then you're getting the third movie, and the fourth movie. All of them are getting reviewed and filmed today. Alright? Also, happy All-Star Brawl 2 release day. Unfortunately, I don't have the money to get it, so that will probably have to wait till December. But, anyways, getting back on topic, what's up? What's happening? What's going on? Welcome back to Animation Station, your number one substitute for anything and everything animation. Welcome back to our Legends of Literature series. Welcome to my personal favorite of the Harry Potter series with Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. This one's always been my favorite. It was my favorite as a kid, and even after watching all of them over and over again, like this is one of the most rewatched movie series in my entire DVD shelf. This one's still my favorite. For a few good reasons. It has that same awesome magical whimsiness of the first movie, but it has a nice darker horror edge to it. And if you guys know me from my 31 Days of Horror reviews, you know I love it when stuff like this, that's supposedly aimed at kids, has a nice darker edge to it. And the best way I can describe Chamber of Secrets is kind of like a whodunit mystery, but also having the structure of a slasher, with a monster going around killing people. Well, not killing, petrifying. It's still a kid's movie, but it's still just as effective. And the whole mystery about trying to figure out who the killer actually is. So yeah, when you really look at the parallels here, this is like a kid-friendly slasher movie, because you have a mystery, you have a monster, and you have a body count. Even though, obviously, it's not death, but that's a whole other thing. Point is, I think this says that Harry Potter's version of a slasher. And I think it freaking nails it with flying colors. And I think that's also why it's my favorite, even over Sorcerer's Stone. Even over Deathly Hallows Part 2. Because it's still that lighthearted whimsiness, but it has a nice darker horror edge to it that really makes it feel unique and distinct. Because as the movies went on, it just kept getting darker and darker and darker, and you got less and less light stuff. This is like that perfect balance between the light, whimsy, fun stuff and the dark, serious horror stuff. So, yeah, I think I've done enough of an intro because this is a very long plot synopsis. So without further ado, let's dive right into Chamber of Secrets. In 1992, shortly after the end of his first year at Hogwarts, during the first movie, Harry Potter, once again played by Daniel Radcliffe, spends a dreadful summer at the Dursleys' house without being allowed to use magic outside school, nor receiving any letters from his new friends, Ron, played again by Rupert Grint, and Hermione Granger, played again by Emma Watson, both of whom he is unable to contact because neither his Aunt Petunia, played by Fiona Shaw, nor Uncle Vernon, played by Richard Griffiths, once again, would allow their nephew's pet owl Hedwig out of her padlocked cage. On the evening of his 12th birthday, he is visited in his room and warned that he will be in mortal danger if he returns to Hogwarts by a lovable house elf named Dobby, voiced by Toby Jones, who reveals that he has intercepted all of the letters to make it seem as though Harry's friends had forgotten him, hoping that it would then dissuade him from returning. But Harry ignores the warning and is determined to seize the letters. So Dobby, seeing that he will have to use force, heads downstairs and destroys a large cake that Petunia had baked for an important dinner party which Vernon was holding downstairs for the family of his client, Mr. Mason, played by Jim Norton, by the use of a hover charm, dropping it on Mrs. Mason, played by Veronica Clifford, head. Robbed of this one chance that could have been the turning point of his career as director of the Drow Company Grunnings, Vernon imprisons Harry by fitting bars onto his bedroom windows to restrict him from returning to Hogwarts for his second year as punishment. The next night, Ron and his older brothers, Fred and George, once again played by James and Oliver Phelps, come to Harry's rescue in an enchanted Ford... What the heck was that? No. just a box. Sorry. And an enchanted Ford Angela belonged to their father, head of Ministry of Magic's Misuse of Muggle Artifacts Office Arthur Weasley, played by Mark Williams. After a pleasant stay together in the Weasley home, the Burrow, one of the coolest locations in the entire franchise, and yes, I will fight you on that, Harry accompanies the family on a trip through the Floo network to buy some first-year school supplies for Ron's younger sister, Ginny Weasley, played once again by Bonnie Wright in Diagon Alley, where they encounter Hermione and Hogwarts half-giant gamekeeper Hagrid, once again played by Robbie Coltrane. While attending a book signing at Flourish and Blotts for flamboyant celebrity author Gilderoy Lockhart, played by director Kenneth Branagh. Yes, that's Kenneth Branagh. Oh yeah, and there's also a little thing they skipped over where Harry ends up accidentally going to Nocturne Alley instead because he didn't say the pronunciation correctly when he dropped the Floo powder. Who was recently appointed to teach at Hogwarts as the school's new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, since, Quirrell died in the last one. After the signing, the trio run into their school rival, the Slytherin Draco Malfoy, once again played by Tom Felton, and now his father, Chief Hogwarts Governor Lucius Malfoy, played by Jason Isaacs. Yes, that's Jason Isaacs. The one we literally just talked about in the Scoob review is the voice of Dick Dastardly, and who we're going to be talking about again later today as well, when I review Sword in the Scoob when he voices King Arthur. Yeah, they're all the same guy. Crazy, isn't it? Who manages to slip a diary into Ginny's belongings while arguing with Mr. Weasley about the latter's recent Muggle Protection Act for the Ministry. The trio and the Weasley children head to platform 9 3/4 at King's Cross to take the Hogwarts Express back to school, running late. But Dobby seals the barrier between platforms 9 and 10 on Harry and Ron to make them miss the train. As a loophole, however, the two boys instead decide to fly to Hogwarts in the Ford Angela, which unfortunately runs out of fuel for its invisibility booster when it catches up to the train, allowing the flying car to be seen by numerous Muggles, and crashes into the Whomping Willow on the school grounds after a little brush with the train. On the school grounds, Ron's wand is snapped in half, and the semi-sentient car ejects them with their belongings before disappearing into the Forbidden Forest. School caretaker Argus Filch, once again played by Dave Bradley, brings them before Potions Professor Severus Snape, once again played by Alan Rickman, who shows them the sightings of the car on the Evening Prophet and threatens to have them expelled. However, famed Hogwarts headmaster Albus Dumbledore, once again played by Richard Harris for the second and sadly final time, and his deputy headmistress, Transfiguration Professor and head of Gryffindor House, Minerva McGonagall, played once again by Maggie Smith. They both intervene by deciding that they will instead be sanctioned with detention. And she also writes letters to their families letting them know what happened. Which you can imagine how mad the mom must be at Ron, right? Oh, wait for it. Harry soon finds he is the unwanted center of attention of 3 people due to being famous. Lockhart, who wants to boost Harry's fame and ego, Colin Creevey, played by Hugh Mitchell, who takes a picture with Harry, and Ginny, who has a huge crush on him. However, while serving detention with Lockhart on Halloween, events take a turn for the worse when Harry hears strange voices and later finds the petrified body of Filch's cat, Mrs. Norris, hanging from a torch clamp. That's eerie. You have a supposed dead cat just hanging off this torch lamp by its petrified frozen tail. Like, that is some eerie stuff. And I do want to talk about this for a little bit. You know how I said earlier how Ron's mom must have been mad at him for that? Not to mention stealing the car on top of that. Yeah, she gives him an earful in the form of a howler. And yeah, he kind of earned that one. So, yeah, it's just a moment in the movie. A funny moment, but a moment. On the wall near it is a message written in blood, announcing that the Chamber of Secrets has been opened and that enemies of the air beware. Unknown to everyone, a monstrous creature is now stalking the castle, with the power to literally petrify several students. During a transfiguration class, McGonagall explains that according to legend, one of the founders, Salazar Slytherin, built a secret chamber and sheltered a monster in it before leaving the school for good. Only his heir can open the chamber and use the monster to purge impure blood wizards and witches whom Salazar deemed unworthy to study magic at Hogwarts, aka Muggleborns. And yeah, this is also when Malfoy starts to become a main antagonist, because he was in the first movie, but he wasn't in it a whole lot. He was in the opening scene. There's a few scenes when he's in the background laughing with Crabbe and Goyle. But this one, he's more the center of attention because A, his dad is now part of the picture, adding more to the lore. You have him now learning more about his own heritage and now being unbelievably nasty, calling Hermione, well, a word I'm not going to say out of respect for the Wizarding world, because in the Wizarding world, it's a curse word, and a really bad one at that. But he calls Hermione this to her face. Yeah, he becomes outright evil in this movie. I mean, he doesn't kill anybody, but he's evil. He's rotten to the core evil. So, yeah, there's that. More attacks occur over the course of the year. Harry and Ron suspect Malfoy is the heir, so Hermione suggests that they question him while disguised using Polyjuice Potion. Their makeshift laboratory is in a disused bathroom haunted by the ghost of a former Hogwarts student named Myrtle Warren, played by Shirley Henderson, whom the school community addresses as Moaning Myrtle. And she also just ends up adopting the moniker anyway. Because there's always a nickname with ghosts, you know. You have Nearly Headless Nick, you have the Bloody Baron. Like, it's just a thing with the naming schemes of ghosts in these movies, so it's not really that big a deal. Because of the attacks continuing, Dumbledore gives Lockhart permission to start this dueling club to train them in the ways of combat. And during the dueling lesson hosted by Snape and Lockhart, Malfoy conjures a cobra because he gets summoned into a demonstration fight with Harry, and he takes it way too far. He conjures a cobra which menaces at a Hufflepuff student named Justin Fletchley. Harry manages to control the snake by inadvertently revealing his ability to speak a serpent language known as Parseltongue, before Snape vanishes the carnivorous reptile. Well, he doesn't vanish it, he freaking incinerates it. But besides the point. This causes the school to suspect that Harry is the heir to Slytherin, naturally, because Salazar Slytherin was also a Parselmouth. Unknowingly, Harry managed to gain the rare ability on the night Voldemort failed to kill him when the former was still an infant. More about that's explained later. On Christmas, the trio used the Polyjuice Potion brewed by Hermione to disguise themselves as Slytherin students. Vincent Crabbe, played by Jamie Waylett, Gregory Goyle, played by Josh Herman, and supposedly Millicent Bulstrode, played by Helen Stewart, hoping to learn from Malfoy the identity of the heir. Unfortunately, the hair that Hermione took from Bulstrode's uniform was from a cat, and as the Polyjuice Potion is only intended for human transformations, she assumes a feline appearance, leaving Harry and Ron to ask for information alone. At the Slytherin common room, they learn that Malfoy does not know who the heir of Slytherin is, but he inadvertently provides Harry and Ron with an important clue about the Chamber of Secrets that his father told him. A girl died when the chamber was last opened 50 years ago. As the potion begins to wear off, the duo discover Hermione's, feline situation, and that it would take a little more than a month to restore her to normal human form, because she won't stop coughing up furballs. Before Hermione is released from the hospital wing in early February with her normal appearance restored, Harry finds an enchanted diary, owned by a former student named Tom Marvolo Riddle, who shows him a flashback to the year 1943, exactly 50 years ago. In the flashback, Harry witnesses 4 wizard authorities carrying away a corpse from Hogwarts, and Riddle, trying to find the problem, accused Hagrid. And then a student, well, back then Hagrid was a student. I can't freaking talk today. God damn it! Ah! Riddle, trying to find the problem, accuses Hagrid, who was then a student, of opening the chamber and freeing the alleged resident monster, a giant spider named Aragog. Riddle's actions caused Hagrid to get expelled. Moving on. The attacks increased throughout the year, petrifying more students, including Hermione. When the diary disappears and Harry and Ron are shown by McGonagall the petrified body of Hermione, Harry and Ron go to Hagrid to question him. But before they can do that, Professor Dumbledore, along with Cornelius Fudge, the British Minister of Magic, and Lucius Malfoy come to take Hagrid to Azkaban. But he discreetly tells the boys to follow the spiders and take care of his pet dog Fang. Lucius then has Dumbledore suspended because of all the attacks, and because he ended up manipulating all the rest of the governors and the organization with death threats. Yeah, he's a... Pardon my language here, he's a slimy son of a bitch. In the Forbidden Forest, Harry and Ron, accompanied by Fang, meet Aragog, who reveals Hagrid's innocence and informs them of the discovery of a girl's corpse in a bathroom, before giving a clue of the resident monster which he and his species fear and never speak of. Aragog then sets his colony of Acromantula on the boys, but the now wild Ford Angula saves them. A torn book page in Hermione's hand identifies the resident monster as a basilisk, a giant serpent that instantly kills those who make direct eye contact with it and only petrifies those who see it indirectly. Piecing the evidence together, and it's interesting that they were actually able to do all this without Hermione's help, which actually added to the tension of the movie, if you ask me. Harry and Ron find out about the cause of petrification of Colin, Justin, Nearly Headless Nick, Hermione, and Mrs. Norris. Colin had his camera. Justin saw it through the ghost, wherein the latter absorbed the full force of it, but since he's already dead, it doesn't really affect him. While Hermione and Miss Norris saw it through a reflection, the former having a mirror, and the latter looking at a puddle of water on the floor. The duo also discovered that the basilisk used the school's plumbing from Aragog's statements the previous night, and they also realized that Moaning Myrtle was that dead girl that was killed 50 years ago that was found in the bathroom. Yeah, they took a character that seemed like a throwaway at first and then made her essential to the plot. In a pretty decent way, I might add. The teachers discover a new message written on a wall declaring that Ginny Weasley has been taken into the chamber, where her skeleton will lie forever. And they convince Lockhart to save her, after Snape ends up conning Lockhart into dealing with the monster, and then he tries to run away because he's a fraud and a coward. Harry and Ron find Lockhart exposed as a fraud who wipes clean other wizards' memories and claims their achievements for himself and plans to flee. Knowing Myrtle was the girl the Basilisk killed, they drag him to her bathroom, where they discover the chamber's entrance behind a circular column of sinks, a pipe big enough for a man to crawl through, as well as, the giant basilisk. The trio jump through the hole, before Ron forces them down there first. And then Moaning Myrtle makes a really creepy invitation to Harry that if he dies down there, he's welcome to share her toilet. I don't even want to try to think of the implications of that one. And land in a series of cavernous maze-like crypts and dungeons, littered with skulls and bones. Following the tunnels, they find a shedded basilisk skin, wherein Lockhart fakes a collapse to seize Ron's broken wand and use it to erase Harry and Ron's memories. But since the wand is broken, when Lockhart casts this memory erasing spell, it backfires on him and wipes his memory. The force of the spell also causes a portion of the ceiling to cave in, separating Harry from Ron and Lockhart. Harry ventures further into the tunnels alone, a bit of a rip-off of the first movie, but I can allow it, and finds a circular door which is the entrance to the chamber itself. He enters the chamber where he finds an unconscious Ginny, who's slowly dying. As Harry tries to examine the body, he is greeted by the ghostly memory of the 16-year-old Tom Riddle. After Riddle reveals to Harry that he is the memory preserved in the diary, he adds that he manipulated Ginny to open the chamber and write the bloody messages on the wall, and how the diary traumatized her in February, where she tried to dispose of it in the girls' bathroom, which is what caused the giant floor leak we saw earlier in the movie, and also explains how Harry was able to find the diary because, Myrtle spit it back out of the toilet. I will admit that is a bit of a cop-out to a really good mystery, having a character that's literally introduced in the third act. Like, come on. Good mysteries are about characters you meet early on and then finding out that they're the ones that did this horrible thing. This is just some kind of memory ghost thing. B, he doesn't show up till over halfway through the movie. And C, it's just a cop-out. That's one of my only big problems with this movie. That is an absolute cop-out of an ending to a good mystery. And if you've seen my Scooby-Doo reviews, you know how much I love a good mystery. Riddle then reveals his full name, Tom Marvolo Riddle, and the anagram he fashions out of it with Harry's wand that he steals when he goes to comfort Ginny, reveals that he is Lord Voldemort, pretty much giving us a bit of insight into Voldemort's origins, which then get explored later on and most extensively in Half-Blood Prince. At this point, Harry learns that Voldemort's real name was that of Riddle himself, and he's the true heir of Slytherin. Again, cop-out ending to a good mystery. Riddle reveals more on how he imprinted his 16-year-old self as memory in an enchanted diary, in order to one day continue the failed work of his ancestor, which began when he opened the chamber 50 years ago, ridding Hogwarts of impure-blooded witches and wizards. He also adds on how he framed Hagrid for the attacks, and how he would make his new pseudonym a feared name in the wizarding community, and how he would replace Dumbledore as the greatest sorcerer in the world. After Harry expressed his support for both Dumbledore and Hagrid, Dumbledore's Phoenix, Fawkes, who we saw earlier on in the movie when Harry got sent to Dumbledore's office by McGonagall, he flies in with the Sorting Hat. In an attempt to kill Harry, Riddle unleashes the Basilisk from the statue of Salazar Slytherin himself. But Fawkes, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, I'm not British, arrives and blinds the Basilisk, destroying its fatal gaze. After a short chase and Harry's diversion, Harry returns to re-examine Ginny. Tom Riddle's memory grows more powerful as it steals life from Ginny's body. The Basilisk emerges from the pool of the chamber, and while Harry tries to find other means of fighting, the sword of Godric Gryffindor materializes from the Sorting Hat. Climbing the statue of Salazar Slytherin, he duels with the Basilisk and manages to kill the monstrous creature by impaling the roof of its mouth with the sword. And a pretty brutal kill for a kid's movie. Harry manages to remove the fang that he got in his arm as a result, as he and Riddle watch the Basilisk slam dead to the chamber floor. As Harry is slowly being poisoned to death, he uses his remaining energy to stab the diary with the Basilisk fang, and the memory of Tom Riddle is destroyed. While Ginny revives from her near-death state, Harry advises Ginny to get out of the chamber with Ron. Fawkes comes to heal Harry with his tears, which have healing powers, as it was explained earlier in the movie in one line by Dumbledore. Ginny and Harry both fully recover, along with those who were petrified: Hermione, Miss Norris, Justin, Nick, and Colin. The next morning, Harry realizes it was Lucius Malfoy who slipped the diary into Ginny's cauldron when he encountered the Weasleys in Diagon Alley's bookshop, but he is unable to prove it. Dobby reveals he is Malfoy's servant, and knowing of the treachery, had been trying to protect Harry all along. In gratitude, Harry sticks one of his old socks into the diary and hands it to Lucius. Lucius gives the diary to Dobby, who finds a sock hidden in its pages. This constitutes, in Dobby's eyes and by house elf rules, a gift of clothing, the traditional manner in which a master frees a house elf from its servitude. The freed Dobby declares he is eternally grateful to Harry and protects him from an attempted reprisal from Lucius. The word Avada is used at the beginning as Lucius Malfoy's curse, suggesting that it was the killing curse that almost killed him years ago. Thankfully, Dobby stops it. Dumbledore dispels Harry's fears that he could have been put in Slytherin rather than into Gryffindor when he tells Harry that it is his choices that define him and not his abilities, and that Harry could not have wielded the sword of Gryffindor if he did not truly belong to that house. At the end of the year feast, everyone who was petrified is revived, including Hermione, who is finally reunited with her friends. Dumbledore announces as well that all the exams have been cancelled as a school treat, and Hagrid is released from Azkaban, receiving loud cheers and applause from everybody, except a few students at Slytherin House. As well as, of course, he also gets a hug from Harry, because he's like a surrogate dad to Harry. Alright, and that's pretty much the story of Chamber of Secrets. It's a bit similar to the one in Sorcerer's Stone, but it has a nice dark horror edge to it. And now that I think about it, the whole reveal of this character we don't meet till near the end of the movie shtick we get for the ending of the mystery of this movie actually reminds me a lot of the first Friday the 13th, when it wasn't until the final act of the movie where we met Mrs. Voorhees, and then she reveals that she's Jason's mom, and has been the one killing everybody. And it all just kind of comes out of nowhere. And I feel like this is that same kind of thing, but it's also a bit more egregious. So, yeah. But I still really like the story. I love the story, actually. I just wish that the ending of the mystery was a little better than that. But I like that we get to learn a bit more about Voldemort. We get a nice darker edge. We have a nice slasher vibe. The characters are still the characters. Malfoy gets to actually be the center of attention as a main antagonist. We still get the cool Quidditch scene that we always get in these movies. Well, most of them. And we still get a lot of really cool Harry Potter moments. And of course, writing and dialogue is so sharp as a knife. So, yeah, that's the story. And in my opinion, it's a great story that improves on a little bit of that mystery from Sorcerer's Stone, but unfortunately, the mystery's not nearly as good, because, again, it pulls a Mrs. Voorhees. Now let's get to our cast, and most of these are the same, so I'm just going to run through them real quick. Daniel, Rupert, Emma, Richard, Maggie, Alan, Robbie, Kenneth. Well, Kenneth Branagh as Gilderoy Lockhart is an absolute delight in how over-the-top and pompous he is. Warwick, Miriam. Well, okay, Miriam's new. She's alright. Gemma, Sally, David, Leslie, Peter, Daisy, David, Violet. Julie, Mark, Christian Coulson as 16-year-old memory Lord Voldemort is fine. He's fine. He doesn't really get to do a lot because he's barely in the movie. And then Jason Isaacs as Lucius Malfoy. Amazing casting. He is a slimy, evil son of a bitch every single second he's on screen. And the more you find out about him, the more, well, serpent-like he becomes. Then we have Bonnie, Matthew, Hugh, James, Oliver, Chris, Sean, Rochelle, Danielle, Alfred, Devin, Emily, Kathleen, Luke, Victoria, and Jessica, all returning from the last movie. Same with over the other people. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Because most of the cast are the people that returned from the first movie, and I already talked a lot about those people in that review, so I'm going to try to keep it short this time around. But yeah, pretty good. I do want to talk a little bit about Toby Jones as Dobby, though. He's a delight every single second he's on screen. Don't get me wrong, I like Harry, I like Ron, Hermione, Hagrid's still my favorite character, but I love Dobby. He's such a hand-gentle character, but he's also absolutely laugh-out-loud hilarious. And then I guess I'll talk a little bit about Julian Glover as Aragog. He's fine. He's kind of just there to be plot exposition, but he's fine. Then, of course, there's a bunch of changes from the book. I'm not really going to go over that because it's way too freaking long and would take hours to go through every single thing. Let's go with the trivia. This one's nice and short. This is the only film on DVD and VHS to use the Warner Bros. Home Video logo with AOL Time Warner byline. The US version has the logo's music in low tone, while the UK and other international versions have the music of the logo in its regular tone. And this is the longest film of the series in length to date, not counting the extended editions. It was the second highest grossing movie of 2002, just behind another book adaptation, Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. I'll tell you all about it when we get to that series. The only film in the series to have a post-credits scene. Forgot about that. This is the last movie to feature all the Hogwarts students wearing their 2001 era uniforms, and then the ties and jumpers get updated in Prisoner of Azkaban. Dedicated to Richard Harris, who died before the film's premiere. May he rest in peace. Amazing final performance to go out with. I especially love the speech he gives in his office when everything finally starts wrapping up. Alright, now let's talk about its box office. If I can find it. Where is its box office? I want to talk about it. Where is it? Behind the scenes, mistakes, trivia, omissions. Doesn't say anything about the box office. That's weird. Here, I'll look it up real quick. Not a big deal. Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets box office. It made $926 million USD. Critics praised its darker plot, sets, performances, especially Branagh, Coltrane, and Isaacs, and a story appropriate for a young audience, and it became a critical and commercial success, grossing $926 million worldwide, and becoming the second highest grossing film in 2002, again, just right behind The Two Towers. Which, I mean, makes sense, because The Two Towers was a huge thing. That's not to say that Harry Potter was struggling. No, it was doing anything but struggling. It was still doing fantastic, and it was only on its second film. But the Lord of the Rings franchise was also big, but it also had some bigger names behind it. Notably, Peter Jackson. Like, no offense to Christopher Columbus, but Peter Jackson is a massive name. Also, another little fact that the trivia forgot to point out, this is the last Harry Potter movie directed by Christopher Columbus before he went off to do something else, leading to Alfonso Cuarón to carry the torch in Prisoner of Azkaban, and then, what was the other guy's name? There was one other guy who takes over with Goblet of Fire, and what's his name? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name, I'm sorry. Mike Newell, that's his name, Mike. Mike Newell takes over as director from Goblet all the way up to Deathly Hallows, and even directed the, I believe he directed the Fantastic Beasts movies too, so, yeah. There's that. Okay, so that's pretty much everything I can say analytically about this movie. Now I'm going to take a bit to talk about my overall thoughts with Chamber of Secrets. Amazing film. Like, no doubt, amazing movie. It's still funny, it's still whimsical, it still has that magic, it still has great cast, great acting. Like, all that here is still great. But I think what puts this over Sorcerer, and why I love it so much, especially nowadays, because I'm a huge horror nut, is its amazing, amazing added extra darker edge. It has more suspense, it has more tension, and while I wish the mystery had a better conclusion, the mystery itself is still compelling all throughout the film. So, yeah, I love, love, love Chamber of Secrets. It'll probably always be my favorite of the franchise, and as much as I love pretty much all these movies with the exception of, sadly, the next one, which I'm not a huge fan of, which I'll talk about next time, but I still really enjoy this movie, and I think you will too. final verdict for Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets is probably going to be the only movie of this franchise to get this outside of the last one. Because this franchise really went out with a bang, let me tell you. Is a high, easy, well-deserved 10 out of 10. My little gripes with the mystery is not enough to keep me from loving this movie. I love it, I adore it, I cherish it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I really don't know what else to say. So thank you guys so much for watching. And, get ready, because unfortunately the next one I'm not a huge fan of and I have a lot of problems with. But I will admit I have softened on it a little bit, and I will admit it's also overdue for a rewatch, so who knows, maybe I'll come around on it, maybe I'll hate it even more, who knows. But I'll tell you all about it next time when we dive into the bizarre little anomaly that is Prisoner of Azkaban.